in between the before and the after. This is the interlude. And a blessed epiphany to you. Good morning to you, Pastor Jeff.
Good morning, Pastor Matt. How are you?
Very well. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to
So
you.
we are celebrating in the church here the season of Epiphany. You spoke about it in your message today. Tell us once again, what is Epiphany?
Well, in the 6th century, I believe it was around 567 AD, the church met at something called the Council of Tours, and they had to align the lunar and the solar calendars between the Western and Eastern churches. So at that time, they established the season of Advent, which of course comes before Christmas, and then they established the 12 days of Christmas, which are between December 25th and January 6th. So actually, this is the 12th day of Christmas. We're celebrating it as Epiphany, which is tomorrow, but of course, Epiphany is the revelation of God to the Gentiles, the non-Jewish world, and that's through the Magi.
So Epiphany does not always land exactly on a Sunday, like this year it's tomorrow, but we're still celebrating this particular Sunday, and we always come right after the season of Christmas. Now, we know the Epiphany as the proclamation of Christ to all nations, the celebration that Christ is truly for the world. And I brought some pictures here today to talk about this too. Pastor Jeff, you've been here before. This is in Nazareth.
Right, yes.
Nazareth in Israel, this is the Basilica of Annunciation where the proclamation is made that Christ is going to be born into the world. And the reason that we have these today here, Pastor Jeff, is because I want to point out the architecture of this particular building is a lighthouse. The designer of this made it as a lighthouse to proclaim that Christ is for the world. And we even have a picture of this here at nighttime. Here is the lighthouse. And since Christ is the proclamation of all nations, we also have at this same church building, we have out in the courtyard, here's the courtyard of the building here, surrounding it is all the nations of the world. And Pastor Jeff, you remember seeing this while you were there.
Correct. Yeah, and you know, the great proclamation with that, Pastor Matt, is that the Magi do represent that because we know they came from Persia. They came probably 1,000 miles to Bethlehem, and that is the proclamation that Jesus is the light of the world.
That's exactly right. So we have this great story of the Magi. You mentioned in your sermon, the Magi were not necessarily there at the Nativity. They come a little bit later, right?
Right. And so what's believed by biblical scholars is, you know, this journey took a number of months by camel or by horse. And the reality is that they probably came somewhere between a couple weeks after the birth to even a couple months. In fact, the scriptures record they actually came to a house, so it may have even been in Nazareth. But the reality is we kind of condensed that all in our modern Christmas story that they're there the night of the birth. But this symbolism is still there, that they come representing light of the world to all nations.
Light of the world to all nations. So here we have these Magi in the biblical story. They're not religious-wise, they're not necessarily Christian as we define that. They're coming to proclaim Christ as king in that way. They're not necessarily Jewish. They come from Persia, as you mentioned. And so it's the proclamation to all nations. And I just want to show everybody watching online, if I could have you hold this microphone here for me. Here's all the different nations that are represented at the Basilica of the Annunciation. Now, each one of these nations gave a gift to the Basilica to celebrate Mary and the Christ child. So if you can see here, this first one here is Ecuador. And what you're going to notice is you're going to notice the actual expression of the nation coming through in the mosaic. So here you see the Ecuadorian flag. And you can take note of how each one represents their nation. Here is Italy. These are all gifts at the Basilica of the Annunciation from the different countries. China, you notice how each culture is represented here. We have Lebanon, very colorful, very expressive. This one takes a little bit different form. This is Ukraine. Here we have Japan, Greece, and again, all different expressions that Christ is the light for the entire world, not just for Israel, not just for one country or this country or that country, but for all places in the world. This is Cameroon. You really notice the cultural expression in each of these. Here is Ethiopia, Singapore, Spain, And we're coming to the end here with just a few more. This one here, United States of America. So, Pastor Jeff, how important is it for us to know and to recognize that Christ is not just for one group of people or one nation, but truly for the entire world?
Well, I think it's always important for us to not make him over into our own image, as we often do, but to recognize truly he is the God for all peoples. As the scriptures say, he came for all peoples. By the way, nice job with all those shufflings. You're ambidextrous. I think that was awesome. But no, it's that celebration that we really come to today in Epiphany. And my hope and prayer is we can all listen to him, and all the nations of the world can maybe move towards a time of peace and listening to the Prince of Peace.
And I want to end today with the centrality of your message that you shared with us today, that Christ is always with us, everywhere, throughout time. As we go into this new year, 2025, Christ is with us.
He is always with us. He will never leave us or forsake us.
Thank you very much, Pastor Jeff. If you did not catch Pastor Jeff's message for us today, you can join us at the next service starting at 9:15 a.m. This is a brand new year here at the church, and we're going into our 50th anniversary year. Pastor Jeff shared with us in our service today that we have all kinds of wonderful things planned for the 50th anniversary year. Just to highlight, starting the new year, we have some special guest preachers coming in, and these are all former pastors of La Casa de Cristo. So next week, we start out with Pastor Carol Peters. Pastor Carol Peters served as a pastor here for many, many years, and she is loyal and faithful to Christ, and she is coming to share with us the message next week. You do not want to miss that. Followed by, we have other pastors later on in the month. We have Pastor Andrew Garman, who is the founding pastor here. We have others as well, Pastor Getsky, Pastor Davis. You are not going to want to miss this. So throughout the next couple months here, we have all these great guest preachers celebrating the past history of La Casa de Cristo, all that Christ has done. And of course, going into the future, we're excited also to celebrate that the best is yet to come here at La Casa de Cristo, our next 50 years. Later on in the spring, we're going to have a grand celebration of our 50th anniversary. The week right after Easter, we're celebrating with a big anniversary celebration, 50th anniversary. So we can't wait to have everybody involved in this. Make sure you come and be involved. I want to just spin things around here and catch the atmosphere of people coming into worship. Since we are now in 2025, we got a new year. You can see people coming in here. It's a great celebration. And we're just going to say hello to a few people as they come in here. So follow me over this way. Right here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm fine.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Share your name with everybody joining us online today.
I'm Carol Hallstrom.
Carol, and you're coming with?
I'm Myron Pearson.
And how are both of you this morning?
Very good.
Very good. How many years have you been involved in La Casa de Cristo here?
Since 2010.
2010?
Mm-hmm.
15 years now. Can you believe we're in 2025, by the way?
No. It's hard to believe 2000.
Tell us about your Christmas and New Year's celebrations this year. What did you do? Were you with family or friends? Did you have low-key time at home? What'd you do?
I went home for family in Colorado for a week. I came back and my son and his family came and we had botanical gardens.
Oh, wow.
Dinners, lunches. Yeah, it was fun.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for being here at La Casa de Cristo this morning. Won't hold you up anymore. Come on in to worship.
Okay.
Find a great seat. God bless you both.
Thank you.
And let's see who else we got here. Well, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
Introduce yourself for our online audience, please.
My name is Rebecca Merritt.
Rebecca, how does it feel to be live online right now with La Casa de Cristo?
Wonderful.
Rebecca, how many years have you been a part of La Casa de Cristo?
22.
22 years.
Mm-hmm.
And what have you seen develop over the last 22 years since you first started coming to the church to now? How is the church different? Tell us about your experience in those 22 years.
The reasons that we joined, we were looking for, I was looking for particularly a church that was a Bible-based, gospel-based church with good preaching, a church that had outreach, social outreach, in a church that offered good adult education. I found all of those. Those have continued. Praise God. That's why I stay here. The music is also a wonderful addition. That was a welcome surprise. The the church has not changed so much as it has stayed steady, which is a blessing, I think, to me. So
Thanks be to God.
yes,
So today in worship, we're talking about Epiphany, and Pastor Jeff is talking about the story when these magi come and visit Christ. And so looking at the whole story from the last couple of weeks, we've had the Christmas story. We now have the Epiphany story of these magi visiting all these different characters around the nativity scene. We have Mary and Joseph there. Pastor Jeff talks about how the magi, they come a little bit later in the story. What is one of your favorite parts of this whole Christmas and then going into nativity season story?
this, for whatever reason, this year I have been focused on those shepherds. They must have been so stunned, and I've tried to put myself in their place, and I never have really focused on the shepherds before. They've always been a wonderful part of the story, but this year, as I say, I've been looking at how they must have felt and how incredible it is that they were the first ones to know.
Yeah. Can you imagine being out in that field?
No.
You're doing your daily tasks just like you're doing every single day. And here comes the angelic proclamation that your
What?
Savior is here.
Yes,
Christ is
what's
born.
going on? Yes.
Yeah.
And that they were the first to know, those humble, grubby shepherds. Yeah, just a beautiful, beautiful story.
Thank you for bringing those shepherds before us on this day. Thank you, Rebecca. We'll let you go into worship.
Okay.
God bless you. Happy New Year to you. Well, thank you all for joining us here at La Casa de Cristo. We hope to see you live here in person whenever you're able to, but when you're not, please always join us online. We're now going to head into the 9:15 a.m. worship service. God bless you all. This has been The Interlude.